And wait for one.
Welcome to the Summers Woodworking Show. It's season 5, episode 5. And tonight we have special guest Dave Gatton over at Garage Walk. I knew I was going to mess it up. Garage Work CNC, also Gatton CNC. And he's going to talk to us about getting started with doing CNC machines and how you can purchase the ones that he sells on his site. So first we're going to start off with roll call. And to my left is Chris. Chris, you want to tell people who you are and how they can find you?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Brian. It's Chris here from the old Cranky Workshop. Back out in the shop tonight for the shows. You find me on Facebook and on YouTube. And if we get a rainy day, which is we will on Monday, I'm going to be editing down hopefully 2 videos and get back out there again. So I'm way behind. But work is coming. Trust me.
Can't wait to watch them, brother.
Don't bring the popcorn.
Bring the popcorn. All right, Russ, you want to tell people who you are?
Yeah. Brian, thanks a lot for having me. Russ Meadows here from the Rusted Nails Wood Shop. You can find me Facebook, Instagram, just about a hair on YouTube. And if you can't find me, I'm chasing down Chris with the popcorn.
All right, cool. And Dave, the man of the hour.
Okay, thanks for having me on, Brian. You can find me on YouTube under Dave Gatton. You can also find me on Facebook, a little bit of Twitter, occasionally Instagram every once in a while, if I can remember I have an account there. And you can also find all my stuff in my forums and all that kind of stuff on www.garageworkcnc.com, and then there's also davegatton.com.
Cool. First question I got for you, senor, is what is a CNC?
Well, a CNC could be a lot of things. I mean, most, when I talk about CNCs, I'm usually talking about a CNC router. But it can be, a milling machine, a lathe, really anything where you hook either stepper or servo motors to and have it computer controlled. So it can be a lot of things.
What do you specialize in?
I've been building, hobby type CNC machines, CNC routers for many years now, and most recently started the Garage Work CNC about a year and a half ago, and it's doing pretty well. And about a year ago, not quite a year, I designed the Gatton CNC, which enables folks that want to get in pretty cheap. They can, for just a little bit of money. I mean, it all costs money regardless, what kind of CNC you get. But at least with a Gatton CNC kit, they don't have to buy everything all at once. They can kind of get, build it as they get the money. So helps them get started.
Good. So let's not say about your CNC machines, but with your experience, what is the best type of wood carving CNC that's out there on the market besides yours? If you were to put money down on buying a CNC, what would you put your money down on?
Well, that's really a hard question because there's a ton of good ones out there. I guess really what it comes down to is the first thing when you're thinking about getting a CNC is you have to figure out what your budget's going to be. And then you need, once you've determined for sure what your budget is going to be, and when I say budget, I'm talking just for the machine. I'm not talking about software or anything like that, but just the budget for the machine. Once you've determined that, then you can go look and you'll know what machines to look at. Because if you don't have your budget in mind first, and just start looking at machines, you're going to really find some that just make you drool over them, but they're going to be way out of your price range.
Okay, so let's get to that point. Say you're a DIY. Quiet. Say you're a DIY woodworker, and your budget's right around $2,000. Because I know most DIY CNC machines are right around $2,000. What would you pick that's out there in the market?
Other than one of mine, I don't know. I'd have to, like if I had, like you said, $2,000, I'd have to just take a look and see what I could get for my money, and then try to, get the best bang for the buck.
Okay, so I know a lot of people out there, they're looking at people putting these CNC machines together, and mostly because it's DIY type kits, and they're like, man, that's a lot of work. I don't think I can handle it. Is there any kits out there that just comes plug and play and that you can afford under $2,000?
There might be. I wouldn't know what it is under $2,000, because basically that's the difference. Some guys like the fact that they're building it themselves, and personally I think that's a good way to go, because once you put it together yourself, when something goes wrong, you got an idea what it is. If you just buy one that they bring it in and set it down on your garage floor and plug it in and turn it on and go, and then something happens, if you're brand new to CNC, you don't have a clue what's going on. You gotta rely on tech support.
Right.
But there are a lot of, there's a lot of good machines. I don't know of any off the top of my head under $2,000, but there are a lot of really good machines out there, that are pretty much plug and play, I think.
Okay. Now, since I said to skip yours, now let's go into yours. What is the minimum price for one of your kits?
Well, I sell the Gatton CNC kits for $250. That's free shipping to anywhere in U.S. and Canada. And what that includes is the 21 parts that make up really the part of the CNC that need to be cut pretty accurately with a CNC. I use my Gatton CNC to cut those part kits. The only parts that don't get shipped with it are the real long pieces, for obvious reasons. But they're simple, just rectangle cuts. You could make them with a table saw, or you could use a circular saw with a guide, or probably a bandsaw if you set up a guide on it or something. There's a lot of different ways, because they're just simple rectangle cuts. They're not super critical. And by leaving those parts out and letting the end user make those parts, they can also take the planned drawings that I have, because I've got it designed around using a half sheet of plywood for the tabletop. Well, because they're making the long part of the gantry piece, they can make it either wider or narrower, or they can build their table deeper or shorter or whatever. So I think that's one of the reasons why the Gatton CNC kit has been so popular, is because people can get it and then they can make it their own. There's a lot of guys that have, looked at the plans and go, well, I want to be able to do this, and they just change it and do it. It's really easy to do. And all the parts that I include in the kit still work. Because it doesn't have anything to do with the size. So.
Okay, we got a question for you, Dave.
Okay.
A Robo dude, he wants to know, how much is the software for the Gatton?
Well, again, that's a difficult question to answer, because there's a lot of different software out there. When you build a Gatton CNC, you could run it with the Linux software, and it's free. You could use Mach 3, and a license for that is $175 for a licensed version. If you want to use the UC CNC software, it's $60, but you also have to have the at least a UC 100, which is $115. So it still adds up to about $175 for that. And the software I'm talking about, that's control software. That was what would run your CNC. You would still need some kind of software to do the programming and design work.
Right. And a lot of that stuff online is free. But then again, you get into what you prefer. And like, what is that, Solid Jam? What do you use, SolidWorks?
Well, I've drawn in SolidWorks. I'm learning ViaCAD now. And that's much cheaper than SolidWorks. But you know, even if you go with one of the Vectric products like VCAR Pro or something, there are enough drawing tools in there to get you started if you're brand new. You don't have to jump out and buy a CAD software, the programming software, and the control software, you know, because that's where you run into some money. So I always tell people, if you've used CAD before and you're familiar with any kind of CAD program, doesn't matter what it is, continue using that because you already know it. If you're brand spanking new at it and you don't know anything about CAD, then, you know, get something like one of the Vectric products and learn its drawing capabilities. That way you don't have to buy a separate CAD package.
I got a question for you, Dave.
Okay.
Now with the X-Carve, we work off a Garble, or Garble, whatever, GRBL.
Mm-hmm.
That's an interface, I believe. What kind of interface is your CNCs?
Well, again, mine are a kit, so you can really set them up with whatever. Mine didn't come with the stepper motors and drivers and all that stuff. Although I've been using the Xylotex kit, which is pretty much plug and play, and I always recommend that simply because a lot of people that get my kits are getting into CNC for the first time, and they don't want to learn the electronics, or, you know, that's not their thing. And when you buy the Xylotex kit, it's color coded and pretty much plug and play. You know, anybody can figure out how to hook that up.
Well, the reason I was saying Garble, it's Garble Shield from what's the name of that board that I use?
The Arduino?
Arduino, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Now it uses the Garble, which Inventables Easel uses Garble. So does Universal G-Code Sender.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe you need a different kind of controller if you were to use, what's that other program? I don't have it on this machine. It's the one that you use, Dave. Your controller software.
Oh, the Mach 3?
Yeah, Mach 3.
Okay. Yeah, for, you know, Mach 3, well, really, Linux and Mach 3 and UC CNC, they're all pretty much, I mean, they're different, but yet they all run on a computer, but none of them have to have a really super fast computer. It can be some old clunker that, you know, may have Windows XP on it or something like that. Of course, Linux, you have to format it and put the Linux on there. But UC, CNC, and Mach 3 can run. In fact, in my shop out behind here, the house here, I'm still using a really old version of XP on a little E machine, I think, that's probably, yeah, 10, 12 years old or something like that. It just keeps on going. But it doesn't, you know, it doesn't have to have a lot of horsepower to run Mach 3, which is the good thing about Mach 3. Now, I also have VCAR Pro out there, simply because that way if I program something in the house and I take it out there and realize I forgot to do something, I can pull it up and fix it right there at my shop. But that computer out there is just so slow, because when you're doing the simulation, you almost have time to come back and get a cup of coffee whereas the one in the house is much quicker. But
Right.
but it will still do it. Like I said, you don't need to have. A lot of people think they have to go out and buy a new laptop or a brand new computer, and you don't. If you just ask around, somebody's probably got an old one in a closet somewhere they'll give you.
Now, mine is belt driven. I've seen people use the chain driven, and then I've seen the rod driven. What do you prefer?
Well, I think it's pretty obvious that I prefer the lead screws, because that's what I've used, pretty much all the time. There's nothing really wrong with the belt drive. I think the problem is you've got to have a pretty good sized belt to move that kind of weight around. There's commercial machines that run with belts, and but they're big belts. They're not little bitty belts. But as far as being accurate, they're fine. It's just the quality of the belt has to match what you're trying to do with it. And if you're putting a lot of a big heavy router on there with a lot of cutting too deep, it's going to slip.
Yeah, knock on wood, I haven't had no problems.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people that haven't,
But I'm also mechanically inclined, and I also electronic savvy, and computer smart. So a lot of people don't have all that in their background. So, but yeah, I haven't had no problems, and but in the back of my head, I'm thinking, well, I've heard everybody else having these problems. When is it going to hit me? And I don't want it to, because nobody wants something to break down. But okay, now my next question was your orange safety garage work CNC.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What is, I'd say, a good entry-level complete setup on one of those machines?
Well, here again with the GarageWorks CNC, they are what I consider a DIY kit. I sell them a couple of different ways. I have what I refer to as the rolling chassis they can buy, which is all the steel components in that beautiful safety orange color that you mentioned, all the hardware necessary to put that beautiful safety orange together, and the V-groove bearings and stuff like that. That's pretty much what I call the rolling chassis. And I also have what I call a package B, which is some other support bearings, some bearing blocks. There's also some spacer blocks they can buy if they don't want to make their own, and the Acme lead screws, as well as the Acme nuts and the couplers. I can supply those as well. It's amazing to me because most people that buy a GarageWorks kit from me buy both the, what I call the A and B package. They want me to cut the lead screws, and they want me to get the couplers for them and all that. But I mean, it's no secret. I don't, keep it a secret what I use. I put links on the website, so everybody that wants to save a buck can get them themselves and have them shipped directly to them. And that's one reason why I recommend the Xylotex stepper motors and drive box, but I don't supply it. And a lot of people don't really understand why. But here's the thing: they're out in California. So, for example, you're in Texas, Brian. So if you ordered one and wanted me to supply the Xylotex kit, I would order it from Jeff out at Xylotex. He would ship it all the way to me here in Georgia. And then without even opening the package, I would turn around and slap a new label on it and ship it to you. So it's much easier just to ship it from California to you. And the other side of it is, Jeff's only going to warranty it to whoever purchases it. So if I buy it and then send it to you, there's no warranty from Jeff. and I'm not going to warranty it because I never even opened the box.
Right.
So, but yeah, I mean, and again, you know, just like the Xylotex kit, I couldn't order it and turn around and reship it for the same thing that you can get it for Xylotex, you know, directly from Xylotex. So it's just smarter for everybody to just click on the link and order it yourself, you know.
So what is the Xylotex?
It is it's a drive box, which has the drivers, the power supply, you know, it's got color-coded cables coming out, and then it comes with 4 stepper motors. It comes with a parallel cable. And like I said, it's, out of all the things I've looked at, it is absolutely the easiest to connect. It's all color-coded. I mean, unless you're colorblind and can't see colors, you can't screw this up. I mean, it's just that. I think I see Russ shaking his head. I'm sure he can attest to that. You can't really get any easier than that. That's why I've always recommended them.
Yep. If you don't mind modular plug-in and stuff like that, that's an ideal way to go.
Okay, so the 2 packages together. Shoot me a price.
Well, I have a policy, Brian, that I never really like to talk about price on YouTube, because the problem is, if I tell you what,
go up, go down.
If I tell you the price tonight, somebody 5 years from now is watching this video and they're going to call me and go, well, I saw a video and you said it was this much. So I always just refer people to the website. I mean, all the pricing's on the website, and that's what's going to be current. So
okay, so just shoot me a rough estimate. May of 2017. If I was to order right now, what are we looking at?
Well, again, you would have to let me know, because in the Garage Works, I sound like a politician, don't I? But I'm just being honest. I mean, there's 3 different sizes, so I would need to know which size you wanted. If you wanted a little one, the medium sized one, or the big one, and whether you wanted just the rolling chassis, or did you want package A and B. Basically, all together, I think most people, when they buy from me, even if they buy let's just say the big one, the 4x4, like what Russ has, even if by the time they get it, buy the software, buy the Xylotex kit, and get it all set up, they're probably going to have, I don't know, maybe $3,000 total. I don't know, because, you know, you've got some shipping and stuff. I see Russ shaking his head. I guess that's pretty close.
It's close. It just depends on the software that you actually buy to use. Mine was just a touch more than that, because I got a bundle package on the software.
Yeah, Katie says Gatton for president.
Yeah. Well, I know I probably sound like a politician, but you know, like I said, I've just never, when people, you know, get on a YouTube video and try to nail me down for a price, I'm like, it's all there on the website. Go check it and see, because that's what's current. I just don't, you know, and I don't like to even mention prices for anything, really, not just my stuff, but anything, because like I said, 5 years from now, somebody's watching this video, and you know, Brian, you're a content creator. All you guys know.
Oh yeah.
If you say something in a video, it doesn't matter. 10 years from now, somebody's going to try to hold you to it. So.
It's the New Testament.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
I mean, I've commented about stuff I was going to build in a YouTube video, and then never built it, and people are, you know, email me and go, when the heck are you going to build that?
It also depends on what kind of work you're going to do with that CNC machine. You know, if you're just going to do little plaques and cut little parts and everything, you might want to stay with the small. But if you plan on doing big projects, you want a bigger unit.
Yeah. You know, like I said, I've tried to come out with, you know, my thing has always been to try to help folks get into CNC as inexpensively as possible. And, you know, when I came out with a Garage Works CNC, I started out with the small one. I call it the 24x18. The cutting area is just a little under that, I think. I have one that's a 36x24, and then of course I got one that's a 48x48. And you know, I've tried to create one because not everybody's got the same amount of room in their shop, or not everybody needs that much room. Maybe they're into the craft shows and they've got a custom little product they make, and they only need a 20 by 20 cutting area or something like that. So I've tried to design my stuff so that if they look at all of the different things I offer, they can find something that'll fit the bill.
Okay. So another question I got for you, Dave. Do you have a layaway plan?
I've had folks ask me that, and I don't really want to hold on to anybody's money. I would just say, put the money away and don't touch it. And then when you get enough to buy one, come see me. I really don't want to, hold on to folks' money, and because I'm sure not going to send them a machine till I get it also. But yeah, no, I don't have anything like a layaway plan. But again, if money's that tight for somebody, I always kind of, maybe push them towards the Gatton CNC, because you can spend $250 buying the Gatton CNC parts kit, which, like I said, it's free shipping anywhere to U.S. and Canada. Then they can spend some time. A lot of guys, some of those guys sand that stuff and stain it and put clear on it. So, I mean, it looks like a piece of furniture when they get done, and then they save up, and when they get that, that part done, they buy some of the other components, the angle, the hardware, just the different things. So you don't have to have a whole lot of money at once to build one of those things. So as far as garage works, no, I don't have a layaway plan, but that's kind of what the whole Gatton CNC thing is. It's where you don't have to buy everything all at once. And I know guys that have bought a kit from me and taken 6 or 8 months to get their whole, to save up and buy everything for the machine and get it up and running. So
how accurate is the GarageWorks CNC?
Well, both the GarageWorks and the Gatton CNC use the same exact Acme precision Acme lead screws. They use the same Acme nuts, the same couplers. So now the both of them are very accurate. The GarageWorks is, I mean, you can ask the folks that own them. They're accurate. Now the Gatton CNC, mine is accurate, the one I built, but you got to remember, I'm not coming to people's houses and putting these together for them. So if they build it correctly and follow my assembly videos and stuff like that, and make sure that before they go to the next step, that this step is square, check it, double check it. I always tell people, when you dry fitting this and you're clamping it up and you get it all square, once you start running a few screws in it, stop and check it again, make sure something didn't move. But if you take your time and build it right, those plywood machines will be just as accurate as the GarageWorks machines.
So they don't warp and
well, I mean, it would depend on your location. I mean, obviously, if you're in a high humid area and you buy the kit and you don't seal it up or anything like that, you may have some issues with that. But that's all part of it. You have to, where I'm at, I've just got mine stained. I haven't put anything else on it, and mine is just as accurate today as it was the day I built it.
Cool. Yeah, Jerry, he's saying his is pretty accurate. He was cutting holes for a 44 shell casing, and it was perfect. And yeah, speak of the devil, here he is.
Yeah, Jerry's one that he's got to have one of the best looking Gatton CNCs out there, I think.
Hey, Jerry, you want to show the audience what your CNC machine looks like?
Table's a little messy.
He put the safety orange on there. Go.
Okay.
See, now Jerry's is a prime example of what I was talking about earlier, how somebody can take the basic plans that I provide with the kit and kind of make it their own. Notice how he's got a notched out area there for, you know, where he could add a rotary axis or something in there later, or maybe even do dovetails right there. You know, he's got it's obviously wider than what the plans call for. It's got a big spindle on there, so it's very interesting to me to see how people take those basic plans that I sell and just go crazy with it and make it their own.
Yeah. I don't think you're supposed to put a Coke can on there, though, Jerry.
It's on a coaster.
Yeah, he's got a coaster. He's good.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how long have you been doing this, Dave?
Well, I started, you know, for anybody who hadn't heard me tell the story, and I probably told it a million times by now, but back in around 2005, I was setting up my boring desk job and, you know, wanted to try to figure out how to make a little extra money like everybody does. And I thought of a few things that I could make. And I thought, well, you know, I could make them technically with, you know, a router template and use a router table or you know, even a hand router for that matter. But, you know, since I'm, you know, my daytime job used to be programming, you know, engineering and programming CNC equipment. So I thought, well, I wonder if I could get what kind of CNC machine I could get to put in my garage. And back then, I'm talking, you know, this is back in about 2005, I guess. About the only thing I found that was even close, and it was still really more money than I wanted to spend, was what's now known as the Shark by Rockler sells it, but back then Rockler wasn't even carrying it. I don't think. It was just made by Next Wave Automation. And I don't know, I looked at it and I thought, well, the thing's made out of HDPE, and I hate to, you know, it just seemed like a lot of money to buy a machine that's made out of plastic. So I thought, well, I looked and looked and I couldn't find anything that I liked. And then I thought, well, Dave, you're an old sheet metal guy. Let's see what you can design. So I just started designing stuff, and I'd you know, try out a design and it would work okay. And, you know, and then I'd get rid of it and, you know, build something different. And finally, after about, I guess, the third design was the one like I have out of my shop there. It's a steel sidewinder. A lot of people think the sidewinder is plywood, but the original one was steel. And I sold those from all the way up through about 2010 when the economy really kind of went south. I wasn't selling, but just one here and there. And I thought, well, this is really more trouble than it's worth. I'm just going to quit advertising them and just start playing around with mine. And that's really about the time I started getting into making YouTube videos and stuff like that. But as I was making YouTube videos, I would always, you know, if I used the CNC at all for any part of the project, maybe just engraving something on the lid of a box or something like that, I'd always get people making comments about, you know, they'd say, oh, well, that's easy, you got a CNC. So finally I kind of got fed up with hearing those comments. So at the end of one of my videos, I said, well, you know, it's not rocket science to build one of these CNCs. If anybody wants to know, I'll do a video series on how to build one. And man, did I open up a can of worms, because I got swamped with emails and comments and all that. So that's when I came up with that first plywood design. And of course, I just gave those plans away. I lost count of how many sets of plans I emailed out. It was well over 4,000 that I sent out. And a lot of folks still have those same, they all called them the Sidewinder. You know, I never, because I had engraved the one I did in the video, I engraved Sidewinder on the back of it. So everybody started calling it the plywood Sidewinder, I guess. But there's still a lot of those around today. In fact, there's a Facebook group on Facebook that's called Gatton Router Builders, and that's all about the folks that have the Generation 1, I guess you call it, or whatever.
That's the green machine, isn't it?
Well, no, that's it's the first plywood thing. Now, the one I have out in my shop, that big old green one, that's what I built my Gatton CNC gantry on. That's the machine I used to cut the Gatton CNC parts. So.
Okay. Now, I got to ask you, there's other types of CNCs out there that do similar work. Are you familiar with the Maslow?
Somebody had posted a comment the other day and asked me what my opinion was of it.
No comments.
Yeah. I just, I was always brought up, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. So I don't really know that much about it. Just from the video I saw, I'm not impressed, but that doesn't
I
mean
wonder
anything.
how they adjust the depth of the cuts.
Well, the video
Without
I
having to
saw,
go in there and adjust the
the
router.
young guy and the gal was explaining it to somebody else, and they were saying that I think the version they had was just 2D, but they said there's a 3D one of, a 3-axis away, and I'm like, well, I'd love to see that, because I don't know how they can get it to go up and down with change.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I said, so I just always say, no comment and let that develop, because I just at first glance I'm not impressed.
Right. I have the same kind of reaction. Now, have you seen the one that's on the robot?
I guess not.
Okay.
What kind of robot are we talking about?
I'll show you.
Oh, are you talking about the one they call the?
It has 3 wheels, and it has a router. And what you do is you set it down on there, and it does the same thing.
But you got to hold on to it, right?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm not thinking about the same one you
No,
are.
no. I know what you're talking about, the handheld one.
Yeah,
No.
and I couldn't believe when they came out with that, because I'm thinking, how can it be CNC if you still got to hold on to it? That kind of, I don't get that, but that's just me.
This is the one I'm talking about right here. Okay, get through all the intros here.
Yeah, the goal we have in the prototype without the positioning system, we reach
Probably can't hear it.
which is good results. And with this, the target is
Anyway, you go to tested
so that's
and look for the CNC router that runs on a robot.
Okay, I'll have to check that out. I don't know.
That's
It
just weird.
takes standard G code. But yeah, it's got 3 wheels.
So basically, you just have to have your material set on a flat surface and set that down, and it knows how to drive to the X
Yeah, I
and
guess
Y
they have like
locations
these
or something.
sensors.
Yeah.
See the sensors that are standing up right here?
Yeah. I think I'll probably just stick with what I use.
Yeah, I hear you. But yeah, I thought that was very interesting. And just recent too, so.
That'll be one of his next reviews.
You don't know. Maybe. Okay. See if we got any questions. Jim Bashir says we make sensors like that.
Katie Dotson says, "Can you ride it?" And I guess she was talking about the 3-wheeled thing. I don't know if you can that, Katie, but I've ridden my Gatton CNC before. If you, there's a video out.
Yeah, I remember you standing on the gantry.
That was a sight
Yeah.
to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Well,
think that's
I'd got
cool.
I've got a lot of questions about folks, talking about the strength of plywood and that it's not good for making CNC. So I thought, well, let me hush up some of the doubters then. And that's like I said, that's the same CNC I use every day to cut Gatton CNC parts. So even after me sitting on it, it doesn't sag in the middle.
Shade Tree CNC's been running his wooden CNC machine, and his is chain driven, and he just loves it. So he's been trying to get me to build one for years. I'm like, I don't know, something about wood. They say wood moves and twists.
Well,
so
wood, you got to remember, Brian, wood does move, but these are from plywood, and plywoods are very stable. It's going to move a little bit probably, but again, depending on, your location and where you live, the humidity and all that, and what kind of, whether you stain it and put clear on it and all, get it sealed up, it's, it's going to hold up.
I hear Rocky in the background.
Yeah, he just got up and was shaking his.
Not you, Rocky. Yeah, that's pretty cool. But yeah, Jerry was telling me, yeah, you don't have nothing to worry about with the plywood. He says it's pretty strong.
Yeah, Jim Bashir says, put me or Izzy on it, then we'll talk. Well, Jim, if you want to come down and ride mine, you're welcome to. Jim Bashir is a big guy. I've met him at the past Atlanta show, but I believe it could hold him.
So what size stepper motors do you run on your machine?
I have my really old one out there in my shop. It's got the 269 inch stepper motors, but the newer ones I use on the Garage Works and the Gatton CNC, they use a 425 ounce.
Wow. That's pretty cool. Anybody on the panel have any questions? They all look frozen.
Only one should have question is Chris when he determining when he's going to get his.
The 12th of never. I'm not a computer person at all, and I just don't have the space either. So, I couldn't get the bigger lathe. I couldn't put it in a lathe.
Yeah, Jim
Yeah,
says
well-
maybe next year, Dave.
Yeah. Well, Chris, they're not hard to learn how to run. I mean, Russ Meadows did it, so anybody can do it.
Yeah, and it took him, 7 months to get it out of the box.
Yeah.
All right, out of the box now, by God.
I do see the progress of the tool world, but it's just I don't see it in my time.
Yeah. Well, you got to remember too, CNC is not really for everybody. And even like myself, I have 5 CNCs of different sizes and stuff. But that doesn't mean when I get ready to do a project, I'm going to figure out which CNC to put it on. And a lot of times I'm out there using the table saw or the bandsaw or the router table or drill press or whatever it might be. It's not always the right tool for the job. And I see a lot of guys that get a CNC and then they start figuring out how to do every single little thing with it. And I'm like, you could do that so much faster a different way,
Take you 30 minutes to cut the border of something when you could just take it to a bandsaw in 5 seconds, you're done.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just not a tool.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and I remember when they were, becoming popular, everybody's like, That ain't woodworking. Well, what is it?
Yeah, that I think they've come around pretty good as far as that goes. There's still some old diehards out there that think it's not woodworking, but Powermatic, which of course it's the gold standard, and they make CNC machines now. So if they say it's okay,
it's okay. By God,
that's good enough for me. In fact, it's funny because when you look at I don't know if they still have it, but when I first started seeing their ad on Facebook for their CNC machines, it said CNC for the true craftsman. And I'm thinking, you'd never think you'd hear those words in the same sentence, but they said it, so it must be so.
I tell you what, I believe it takes longer to design a pattern, get it to perfection for it to cut out on a CNC. But for repetitivity and perfection, that's the only way to go, man. After you get that thing dialed in and you got your patterns to perfection, you can't beat a CNC.
Well,
yeah,
pretty much. Before you answer, though, I got a little statement on that, because that little Indian that I just did, I could actually have used a hand router and routed that thing, but we're using the CNC to cut that for me. Saved me so much effort on my arms, because my hands, I got arthritis in my hands, and the motion of holding that thing and moving it for the small cuts, and then it'd be something my arms would give out on. And for people like me, that's a godsend to have something like that where you don't have to do that.
Yeah.
And you're still working the wood, you're still making the pattern, you're doing all of it, just not cutting it and stuff. For me, it was a godsend. I don't think I could do it by hand, but it would have took me forever to try to cut that. There's so many minute, small cuts that with having to push that router around the table like that, it would have been a tough struggle for me. And that CNC knocked it out in about an hour.
Yeah, I hear that.
I was happy. Other than if I could ever learn how to make that thing paint for me, I'd be in good shape.
Now,
one of the things
working on that design.
Yeah.
I got a question for you, Dave. Where's a good source to get patterns and stuff? Because I don't know how to make 3D patterns. Like you see of the ones that they do of Jesus and all that. Where's a good place to get those kind of patterns and or learn how to make those kind?
Well, first of all, you'd have to have the software to be able to make them. You can do it in Aspire, but there's a lot of guys that sell the STL models and stuff like that, ready to go. The only thing I've seen, and I haven't ever bought any, and so I'm just going by what I've seen, happen to other people. But you got to be careful, because if you get somebody that's wanting to sell you a big pile of them for just a little bit of money, more than likely they're not really his. He's probably stolen from somewhere. And
I wonder, is his name Ted?
Well, no, I'm not talking about that guy, but you just have to look. But there are a lot of legitimate folks out there that make them and then sell them, and they should sell them, because it probably takes a good while to do. Anybody that does anything, I mean, it's okay to share stuff and give it away free, but if you're spending a lot of time making stuff, you should get paid for your time, I think.
Exactly. And a lot of them aren't all that expensive either. I've seen some go for like $5 up to $25.
Yeah, like I said, I haven't ever bought any of them, but I don't. They're not that terribly expensive. And as far as other patterns, sometimes you can take scroll saw patterns and convert them. Steve Good, he gives all his stuff away. And there's a lot of patterns that you can get from him. And then with just a little finagling, you can, cut them on a CNC. So, and just in general, you can go to, like, if you want to, say you want to cut out the shape of a horse or something, you can go to Google and Google horse and then click on images and then tell it to look for the line type drawings and probably find something that you can import straight in and do a trace bitmap with either VCarve Pro or Aspire and get it good enough that you'd be able to cut it with the CNC and it would turn out fine. You just have to make sure when you get something up there, you're not getting some kind of copyrighted stuff, because you don't want to do that either. But there's a lot of just, royalty-free stuff that's on the internet that you can just get and do a trace bitmap on and make yourself a pattern.
Okay. Well, before we go, you want to show people your website? Show them around?
Yeah, I can, if you'd like for me to.
Sure.
Let me see. Screen share here. I don't even have it bookmarked on this computer, but we'll see if we can find it. Right up. This is the GarageWorks CNC website, I guess. Can y'all see that?
Yeah.
Are y'all seeing it? Okay. This is the GarageWorks CNC website. Also have a pretty active community forum, which helps, because anybody that's got and it doesn't matter whether you've got a GarageWorks CNC or a Gatton CNC, you can come here and ask your questions, and you can see we've got a lot of different topics there. So this place right here is full of information. We also have two Facebook groups, one for Gatton CNC and one for GarageWorks CNC, which helps folks where they can ask a question, share ideas, share files and stuff like that.
Cool.
And that's GarageWorksCNC.com.
Yeah, GarageWorksCNC.com.
And that's with an X, right?
Yeah, GarageWorks with an X.
All right. Let's see. Stop presenting. There we go. Well, that's all we have for you this week. Thanks for stopping in and viewing this. And I want to thank you guys that are on the panel for stopping in and help creating this show. Next week, I do not have anything planned. Yeah, so if there's something you guys would like to watch on next week's show, leave me a comment either on this video or else get a hold of me on Facebook. Until then, see you next week.